Support for TortureCast is brought to you by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TORTURECAST at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code TORTURECAST. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Thursday, March 17th, 2022, and this is episode 246 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of your San Francisco Giants. We're coming to you live on Facebook. Of course, you can get this wherever you get your audio podcasts. I'm your host, Chad King. And man, we got some baseball to talk about. And joining me to talk about all good things in life and good things in baseball, Eric Nathanson. Man, how you doing?
I'm doing great because baseball is back. We actually we don't have to speculate. We don't have to hear whining about owners saying, they don't want this and the players saying they won't bend on this. We don't have to deal with the labor stuff. And I don't think we're going to get too deep into the labor stuff, but I'm so happy that baseball's back and they avoided losing any games this season.
I know. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we were talking about this and, we haven't been back in a couple of months because we didn't have any developments. But last week, the owners and players finally put down the gauntlets and signed a deal and moved on. And we'll get into all the details in a little bit. But because it's been about a week since the deal went live, so much has happened because spring training is now condensed and there were so many free agents out there. And so I figured we just kind of get right into it here on this great St. Patrick's Day. So hopefully you don't get too drunk tonight. But let's rejoice in the fact that the Giants are going to try and be competitive again this year. I don't think they're going to repeat 107 wins. Who can? And maybe the Dodgers. That's about it.
Oh my God.
But I mean, right away the free agent flurry started, and the Giants got right to it by signing starting pitcher Carlos Rodon, who was formerly with the White Sox, to a 2-year, $44 million deal with a 1-year opt-out. So, they needed another arm, clearly. And with this year, with a full 162, and you're going to have double headers and a little bit of a compressed schedule, they never make it through a whole season with 5, 6, or 7 starters. They need more than that. So they need that depth, and that's what the Giants have always valued, and that's what Farhan does, right? He puts it together with kind of the sum of the whole parts, not just 1 or 2 stars. I think this is a good signing. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Rodon. I've always liked him watching White Sox games. He has a special place in my heart because I remember when I was staying at a hotel after we had the fire, he threw the no-hitter, and it was like one of those moments of joy like at that time because it's always fun to watch no-hitters. That was a couple of years ago when only in the shortened season. He's fun to watch. He's a competitor, and he gets it. He's not taking number 55 from Timmy. Everybody can not worry about that. He's taking 16 instead. He said he knows what 55 means to the city. So I have to wonder if any of these guys are ever going to wear number 55 after Timmy's,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It'll never be retired, but none of the pitchers seem to want it. None of the players seem to want that number. But he's a bulldog type pitcher who's going to go out there and give you everything every time. And those stirrups, look at those stirrups.
He's got the stirrups going. Yeah, he's going to be wearing number 16, not taking Timmy's number, which is really, really a good thing of him. So the one thing that I will say is that not only was he an all-star last year, a 2.37 ERA in the American League.
Yeah.
He tailed off a little bit, at the end of the year, but I don't think that's too much of a concern for Farhan and company. But his strikeout rate was over 12 per 9 last year. I mean, that's smoking, Eric. Giants need someone like that.
I mean, you talk about him tailing off too. Everybody tailed off at the end of last year. They just weren't ready for that full long season after the shortened year of 2022. And I think Farhan chalks it up to stuff like that. This is a very much Farhan move. There's an opt-out, like you said, after the first year. So they could only be on the hook for 20, 22 million. And if he gives them the kind of production he gave the White Sox last year, that will absolutely replace Gausman, the Gausman hole in the rotation.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is that he essentially replaces Buster Posey's salary almost like exactly.
Oh,
So they're
wow.
kind of like right there on the books, right? I'm not saying he's the equivalent of a Buster Posey, obviously. There you have a picture of him getting his no-hitter. Of course, last year he was the first no-hitter of 2020. Sorry, 2021. I think it was in April there. But yeah, 22 million basically average annual value. So I think it was a good signing. And now we're looking at a rotation of Webb, Rodon, Disco, Alex Wood, and Alex Cobb. So that's a righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, which is kind of a nice little balance to it. And we know that the Giants aren't going to be able to keep that up all year. They're going to have to be plugging in other guys like your Tyler Beaties, etc. But I mean, I think this is one of those holes that they plugged, and they're ready to go.
I mean, who expected Webb to be the ace and then Rodon to be the number two? When they went out and
No,
signed
if
Cobb
you
this
said this a year
offseason,
ago, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Webb's like a number 5 starter, number 4
right?
starter, and who's Carlos Rondon? Yeah.
Webb was trade bait a year ago. Now he's the ace. He's probably going to get the opening day start, and Carlos Rodon is going to be the number two right behind him. And I love that he's a lefty. I don't ever want the Giants to be too right hand dominant. And Farhan again tries to do that with his different signings. I mean, putting last year, what is it? It's just Wood was the only lefty in the rotation for most of the year.
Yeah, for most of the year, absolutely. Yeah, that was it. It was funky delivery. So that's good. The Giants were speculated in, pursuing some other guys as well, and we could talk about that. Suzuki, of course, went to
Yeah.
Chicago. What are you going to do about that? They were, we'll talk about the designated hitter later, but those guys come into play, and they all signed with someone else. So, the Giants kind of were dwindling in their opportunities. But as I bring it up here, they did sign a former enemy of the Giants. They
Yes.
got Jacques Peterson to a 1-year, $6 million deal. And so him and his pearl necklace are coming to San Francisco.
For
And I
only
mean, look,
6 million. That's crazy.
a lot of people I've been reading, didn't like this move. Who cares about the whole Dodger thing? That's so dumb. People get
It's
caught
so
too much in
cheap.
that. That's a fairly cheap contract, man, for a guy who hit 18 bombs last year. He's valuable off the bench. He's valuable against righties. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but they can plug him into DH and all that stuff. So, I don't mind the move. I'm not like, yeah, that's the best move ever, but it's fine. It fills a little bit of a hole. I know they were looking more for a right-handed bat, and he's a lefty. But overall, he's a Palo Alto kid. He was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I don't know where his childhood allegiances lie, but he's coming
I
back
think
home
he had to
essentially.
have been. Yeah, he had to have been a Giants fan. I've always liked Jock. Jock's got a brother, I think, who has Down syndrome.
Uh-huh.
And you remember a few years ago in the Derby, his brother was there cheering him on. And it seems like he brings his family along and stuff like that for all the good, fun rides. And you got to always appreciate a guy like that. And a guy like that usually fits into the Giants organization. Plus,
Yeah.
he and Crawford are good friends. Pavlovich had a very funny tweet pointing out that every time Bumgarner and Puig got into it, you could always just see Crawford and Peterson off to the side chatting, and even shared a picture of exactly that happening. And Crawford himself put out a tweet saying Bozo's coming home, which I just
Yeah,
thought was
Bozo's
great.
coming
So
home.
that means Jock will fit into this clubhouse perfectly. That's totally one of those signings that at the end of the year, if the Giants are in the playoffs and Jock is doing things, they're like, what a great pickup the Giants made back in March to get Jock Peterson for only 6 million. The guy's won the World Series the last 2 years, and he could win a third this time. He's
Yeah,
the new
no,
Reggie
there's
Sanders.
that's what he is. So, we hope he take his magic with him since he has won it 2 years in a row on 2 different teams. So, that would be fantastic. Well, they also got Matthew Boyd, Detroit Tiger. Little bit of an injury history, a little bit of a gopher ball history. And he's injured right now. So it's not like he's going to be with the rotation anytime soon. The earliest they think he's coming back is in June. Overall, he gave up the most home runs. Let me add this here to the stream. most home runs in the American League, both last year and the year prior. He has a fairly high career ERA. He had a decent year last year, but he's another lefty. He brings another look. And Farhan again seems to find these guys who not only typically American League pitchers do better in the National League, but now that's kind of a moot point with the DH, coming into both leagues. So now I think these stats are more comparable if you look at American League guys coming to the National League. Overall, I don't hate the move. It's about $5 million with $2 million in bonuses for incentives, so it's not extremely expensive. And again, he could be valuable as a spot starter and a relief guy down the road.
We've seen Farhan do this, make signings like this, where he'll stash a guy for a couple months who's going to, like Brebbia last year, who was injured and will come back because he knows he's going to make a bevy of moves throughout the year. So he figures he can find a spot on the roster for this guy. Our viewers, anybody watching, can see this guy has a funky 3/4 delivery, again, right in the mold of what the Giants look for and getting different looks from their pitchers. And he's like lanky and all arms and legs coming in from the side. It's almost a Bumgarner 3/4, but not quite as powerful. But I mean, Boyd, we've heard of him. He was a hot prospect about 3-4 years ago. So the Giants have a habit of resurrecting guys. We'll see if they do it again. They also grabbed Jacob Junis from the Kansas City Royals. He could end up spot starting in the rotation and things like that. He's a right-handed pitcher that came up over the last few years. He's been around since like 17. They're making it's so I did not expect this. I expected a free agent frenzy, but I did not expect like the Rodon move to be the first big move and like to have.
Just hold on a second, Eric. My audio cut out for a little bit, so I'll be right back. You can continue to talk.
Oh, okay. Well, then anybody who's still listening, we noticed right out of the gate, if you can still hear me, we noticed right out of the gate that the Giants attacked it with getting Rodon and were aggressive.
Brought to you by Kelsey and Presley and StreamYard.
But there you go. But they didn't want to be the ones setting the market with the bigger contracts, even though you had national writers out there like John Heyman after the Giants signed Rodon saying,
my apologies, just give me one more second here.
Yeah, no problem. I'll keep talking. Out here saying, how can small teams spend when the Giants are out here giving like 22 to Rodon, which is just the wrong message to be sending after such a heated lockout. And the players are trying to get what they want. And we saw all the other huge free agent signings, but $22 million a year for Rodon, I think, is one of the biggest Farhan's given out. So we've got to see how that pans out in the long run, because he is not one to give out huge contracts. That's why getting Buster's contract off the books seemed reasonable. But like Chad mentioned, now Rodon's comes in and just kind of replaces it. So,
all right, I'm back. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. I apologize that to our listeners, and I'll edit that out in post. I can hear you fine. Yeah, I had an issue with my wireless AirPods. They cut out there for a second. So anyway, I missed obviously what you were just saying for the last couple of minutes, but
I was leading us towards talking to more of the free agents in the sense that the Giants jumped out early by signing Rodon, and then they just didn't do any other huge name signings while all these other teams did. And the $22 million, like you mentioned, that clearing Posey off the books, putting Rodon on, you can't see the Giants giving much more big contracts like that. And it really just falls right into line with what they've been doing. And, all these other contracts that have been handed out, some of them are ridiculous in the money. And Farhan was never going to spend that kind of money.
I think Chris Bryant, he's an interesting guy because he was fine with the Giants. He wasn't spectacular. He was good in the divisional series, the first round against the Dodgers. He was pretty much the only guy that was hitting them. But overall, I think everybody at the end of the season, including most fans, were like, yeah, he's not coming back to San Francisco. He's got Scott Boras as an agent. He says he wants to play where he's going to win, but let's be honest, he's already won a ring, right?
Right.
He got screwed with the service time with Chicago when they held him back that rookie year. This is his cash time. This is how he can provide for his family and the next 3 generations, apparently, of Bryant's looking for that payday. And let's be honest, Eric, he's not going to Colorado to win a second ring at all. No. And he knows that. We're not stupid. And I'm sure when he puts on the hat and he has his first interview, he's going to say all the right things. Oh, I think they have a chance here and all that stuff. No, I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. So he signs for 7 years, $182 million. I mean, That's not even remotely close to what Farhan would give him, not just an annual average value, but years. He's 30 years old, getting a 7-year contract. I mean, they just traded away Arenado. I know it's a different GM. It's the same owner. It's a different GM. But my Lord, Eric, they traded away Nolan Arenado, who is better than Chris Bryant. And they basically gave the same money to Bryant for 7 years. I don't get it.
With a full no trade clause, which is
with the full no trade clause too, which in 3 years, 4 years, they're going to be like, crap, we want to trade this guy.
Yeah, he's absolutely getting traded in like 3 to 4 years. There's no way Bryant's going to last 7 years in Colorado. Yeah. I just can't. I mean, it sucks that he's going to be teeing off on Giants pitching, but I mean, this guy's going to hit 40 to 45 dingers every year because he's playing in Coors now. And I think he's doing it. He's like, all right, so where can I cement my legacy? Where can I build my stats to maybe become a Hall of Famer? And where can I make my money? And right now, it's not about chasing the ring. I'll go pad my stats and make some money, and then next time I'll go chase the ring. I really think that's what he did. I mean, he won a ring fairly early, and I'm totally good with the Giants not re-signing Bryant. He didn't do anything particularly amazing last year. There was nothing that stood out 100% for me. I loved it, and then he just talk about a guy, in my opinion, who's been living off reputation for a while. I mean, I understand that he's great at getting on base. He really is. He had a long, 24-game on base streak during the season, and like you said, he was one of the few who was able to hit the Dodgers. But it's just nothing ever stood out that he did particularly well. He just kind of, he was good at most everything, not great at anything.
That's exactly right. He's one of those guys who he is kind of living on reputation, I think, more than performance, right? I mean, Mike Yastrzemski's F-WAR is higher than Chris Bryant's over the last 2 years. Right. So, you look at everything, and again, it's an analytics game, and it's a cost game. They were never going to give him that money. They wouldn't even give him $20 million for 3 years. So it's so far out of the ballpark. Even other teams that spend a shit ton of money were going, "What are you doing, Colorado?" Like that. That's insane. I think it's like the housing market. I think they overbid for him. I really do. I doubt he had an offer that was even close to that. I don't see it. But I think once Boris saw that, he was like, "Hey, KB, I mean, come on. Even I didn't think you were going to get this." They're crazy out in Denver, man. It's that Mile High Air or something.
They don't know. That's the worst run organization. And you know what? We need the doormat in the division. So I'm totally cool with them being such a crappy organization. The Giants, the way they build and the way the Rockies build are just literally light years apart from each other. Because what the Rockies do can't be considered building.
Yeah.
They just kind of throw everything together and see what happens. And if they want to pay Chris Bryant that much, say la vie, go make your money, buddy. I mean, you have it here. The Giants have a lot of room left in their budget. Their forecast right now is about 160, and the first tax threshold is another 70 million above that. So if they want to spend some money and spread out, they could do that. But they were not going to pay that kind of money. Schwarber, I think, got a little more money than they expected. The Seiya Suzuki, though, that would have been a really cool signing. That's one I really feel like they missed out on.
Yeah, and the Cubs got him, and you wonder what happened in that negotiating. How does he choose? How do him and his agent choose Chicago over San Diego, LA, San Francisco? All these teams were purportedly interested in him. He worked out at Petco Park, right?
Yeah,
it just happens. Who knows? I'm sure he had his ideas, but yeah, if he's anything close to the Japanese stardom that they predict, then man. It's a good value contract too if he produces at that level. So, good for Chicago. The Giants will have to face Chris Bryant now 19 times a year this year. Although maybe not in the years going forward. But not in the years for going forward, exactly. And now with the signing of Jacques Peterson, they're not going after Castellanos or anything, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
So, I mean, other than these small signings like a Boyd or whatever, Giants might be done making a splash in the free agent market again. They might sit tight, 50, 60 million under the cap or the first luxury tax threshold and just see how the year goes. Again, they don't make big splashes. And of course, we can talk about what the freaking Los Angeles Dodgers did again yesterday. That was a shock, not them signing him. The first shock was the Braves pulling off the trade with the A's. Because then you're like,
Matt Olson.
wait a minute, they just traded for Olson. That means they're not planning on signing Freeman. And everybody was shocked. I honestly, no, I don't think many people, even some of the experts, are like, no, we thought Freeman was going to stay in Atlanta, but that wasn't the case. I don't know what went down or why that decision was made, but yeah, the Dodgers stepped in and said, we'll pay you. And so now that the Dodgers have yet another all-star on the team, and in fact, they have 3 of the top 6 contenders for the National League Most Valuable Player, according to Vegas.
Wow.
I mean, with Trey Turner and Mookie Betts, it's like
yeah.
It's like, holy crap, man, they're just freaking loaded. Clayton Kershaw re-signed for a year, although I'm not really, quote, scared about that because he'll just hurt his back again, be on the TL for half the year. But, you know, the rich keep getting richer. I was at the gym this morning, and my friend who's a major Dodger fan came in, and he's like, hey, we got our play money. We're paying our people. I said, you guys are like a video game. You're just like drafting and signing whoever you want. Like, 1 billion rubles, sure. You know, like, it's fake money. Who cares? But, you know, the Giants have to play smarter, and the Dodgers just throw money at it, I guess.
The Dodgers are the Dodgers. They do this every year. We just get used to it as Giants fans. Like, look, last year was special, 107 wins. And a lot had to go right for the Giants to get 107 wins, and a lot had to go wrong for the Dodgers to only win 106. I mean, honestly, if they could get their pitching together, they could win like 120 games with this kind of lineup. This is one of the best lineups I've ever seen. I thought there were some Yankees lineups that were in the 90s and stuff that were some unbelievable lineups. These are some of the best lineups. The Giants are going to have their work cut out for them. It's things like this that really tell me the Giants are shooting for the first wild card spot this year instead of shooting for the division, because it's going to be really tough. The Dodgers are going to win well over 100 games yet again.
Well, I think that's the problem, is that, you know, the Dodgers I shouldn't say easily, but more than a 50-50 chance are going to win over 100 games. And we know the Giants aren't going to win 107 this year. I think the chances of breaking 100, I mean, that is a rare feat in itself for any team, is to hit triple digits. So can they win over 90 and compete for a wild card? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to be able to catch the Dodgers. And we'll talk about this later, and after spring training is over and we head into the regular season. But that's just kind of the way it's looking. But let's go ahead and start talking about this new collective bargaining agreement with the owners and the players signed last week. A lot of changes coming, not only this year, but the next year as well, and the following years. First one we knew was coming, which is the universal DH. So now we do have the designated hitter in the National League. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like this move, a lot of people that like this move. Eric loves it. I do not. It's the way it is. I just have to accept it and move on. And my old curmudgeon butt needs to deal with it. You know, just put on the shades and go with it. But that also means that Logan Webb's first career home run is also the last home run hit by a primary pitcher. How about that? He can go down in the record books knowing that. Unless, again, you have someone like, I don't know, maybe Arizona puts in Madison Bumgarner and says, screw it, because Bochy did that. Bochy did that in Oakland one time. He said, screw the DH.
Bum hit 105 last year, so
I know. Yeah, he wasn't exactly raking the cover off the ball like he typically can. No, there's no doubt about it.
It's kind of neat. The Giants have weird records like that. Like, you know, the last NL pitcher to hit a home run in a game, if that's what it ends up being. Like, they have the first hit in interleague play from back when interleague play started. The Giants and Rangers were the first interleague game, and I think Dale Hamilton or maybe somebody like that had the first hit. So they always get those weird little records with their players. And Logan Webb's thrilled because at least he got his chance to have his home run.
Yeah,
he's probably at spring training, because, you know, there was a whole articles about how excited he is. He was probably at spring training, strutting around, being like, "Yeah, that's right. They had to put in the DH because they were scared of my hit." You know, you totally know he's playing it like that.
Yeah, I've heard from a couple of pitchers that, you know, it depends on the pitcher, of course, but they were saying, you know, the one thing that they're going to miss is not necessarily hitting in a game. They're like, yeah, you don't want to face a guy who's throwing 97 sliders. That's not fun.
No,
they will miss just the pitcher's batting group in the cage before games. That's the kind of stuff that they're going to stop doing that, because there's no point. You're not hitting anymore. So there's a lot of those little things where they do mini games, you know, how many oppo can you hit? You know, how can you pull it down the line? You know, it's just a kind of a friendly camaraderie thing. And that's going to be gone. So we don't get to privy for that, but I personally am going to miss pitchers hitting. I know a lot of people have moved on and evolved in their appreciation for the game, and they're okay with the DH. I am not, but I'm going to have to live with it. We saw a small experiment with it in 2020. They did play 60 games with a DH. The world did not stop spinning. I understand this. Baseball, it was not less pure. All those arguments that are made. I just enjoy the game a little bit more when pitchers hit. That's just the way I am.
It does take strategy out of it, and that is the main argument, against having it happen. But, the Giants have proven that they are not afraid to shift change, and I am 100% certain that Gabe Kapler is still going to go with the shift change mentality this year and, swap righties for lefties or lefties for righties. So I don't think it's going to affect bench players. I think San Francisco is one of those teams that players can look to come to and be like, well, if I'm on the bench, I'm still going to be an active role of this team. I'm just not going to get at bats, because there's not as many pitch hitting opportunities. So I think it's good that the Giants are built like that. So we're still going to get our fair share of pinch hitting moves and swapping moves. We're just not going to have to deal with pitchers bunting and pitchers swinging and missing over and over and over again. So, it's good.
Just looking like, the helpless at bat that they usually are. I know.
And we knew it was coming. Adding the 26 man on the roster was what really led to that. And then we had a feeling after 2020, they throw the next collective bargaining agreement, which they absolutely did.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing, we have expanded playoffs by one team per league. 12 teams now will be in it, 6 from each league, 3 division winners and 3 wild cards. The top 2 division winners get a first round bye right into the divisional round. So then it's the number 3 seed versus 6. And the number 3 seed will be the third divisional winner with the third best record. That'll be 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. There will be no reseeding after that, meaning the number 1 team will play the winner of the 3-6. So even if the number 3 won, and the other round is 4 and 5, number 1 won't play the 4-5 winner. They'll still play the number 3. So it still could be 2 division winners in that second round. So it's a little bit interesting, but I guess they have to do that for travel considerations or whatever, perhaps.
The format is the 3-game series is all at the higher team's park.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to shove them all into 3 days. That's why tiebreakers have changed. There's no more tie-breaking games. They're going to go to formulas like the NFL because the season's going to end. They're going to have a day off, and then they're going to have 3 days of playoff games.
Yep.
While 4 other teams are just chilling at home. And you can't make those 4 teams chill at home for too long. So they got to squeeze it in as fast as possible, which is why I think that they've decided to do it this way. Yeah, because the season ends on the 5th, so I'm assuming that the playoffs will start on Friday the 7th, and just go 7, 8, 9. So with that new format, the Giants probably are not going to win the division. You got to figure the goal is get the number 4 seed, get the top wild card spot to get that home field advantage in the first round, because that's the only time you'll be able to have it after that. Yeah. So I think that that's the goal for the Giants this year. Win 90, 95 games and finish second, but finish at the top of that wild card bracket, because I do think that's a distinct advantage for the one non-division winning team that gets home games.
Yeah, so now there's real incentive to winning your division and being in those top 2 seeds, because you get that first week off. I mean, like, even if you're the one that's hosting it, it's a 3-game series. You got to win, 2 out of 3. And of course, if you're on the road, that's it. You're playing all 3 on the road, and that's what your playoff hopes are kind of hinging on. But again, it is not a one game wild card playoffs. With the Giants, of course, succeeded in twice, so they benefited from that opportunity. But at the same time, this is going to be a better measure, I think.
I mean, think about it. It's kind of crazy. We went from having a guaranteed 2 coin flip games to start the playoffs every year, with a lot of extra game 163 sprinkled in over the years, the last few years. We went from having a bunch of those winner take all games to none. We're going to have none, to end the season or to start the playoffs. The only way we'll have them is when they get to those game 3s.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be really kind of interesting to see if any of these scenarios pop up where not just with division winners, but specifically wild cards who have the same records. The Phillies and the Giants have the exact same record.
Right.
Then they're going to use statistics to do the tiebreaker or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Like division record or
Yeah, they could totally flip, everything, and that's just kind of odd, because I do like those game 163s and those one kind of sudden death things. But that's okay. The players and the owners are going to get more TV money. That's really the main driver behind this. And
Yep.
I mean, I'm not particularly fond of expanding the playoffs. Obviously, when the Giants grab that very last number 6 seed, I'll be like, "Yay, I'm all for it." No, I'm just kidding. But the other leagues, they have so many playoff teams, and then baseball will still have the fewest with 12. But I know some people wanted 14, and I was completely against that. That's when you're just under half the league. You're like, "What? Just do a whole season with half the league. Do like a Premier League for soccer, like, and really see who's the best instead of like who's the best in a 3 or 5 game series, right? Like you're playing 162 games. That should mean something. Like
Yeah.
that should mean something. And if you're the 12th best team getting in and you go win the World Series, well, the Giants did it as the number 10 seed, so it's happened before. But it's kind of like, are you really the best team? Or you just got hot during the playoffs?
Right?
Because
Like nobody believes the Cincinnati Bengals were the best team in the AFC this year, but they got
no,
to the Super Bowl.
they got there. Yeah. I think baseball is one of those sports where anything can happen. I mean, it's much easier for a lower seed in baseball to beat a higher seed than particularly basketball. Basketball is like in the NBA, you almost never, ever see an 8 beating a 1 or 7 beating a 2. It just doesn't happen. Very, very, very rarely. But in football, it's one game, could happen. And in baseball, it's just you're subject to the starting pitcher, a crazy play here or there, the wild card one game, where any given, I know they say any given Sunday, but any given day, a baseball team can go, one way or the other. So
Yeah, baseball's just different that way because friggin' a Jaire Adrianza can affect a random playoff game, whereas you still need the stars in football like Matt Stafford and Aaron Donald to step up and do those things when they do that. I'd use a Niners reference, but Jimmy G's not quite there.
No. So other changes are going to happen in the 2023 season. Pitch clocks are going to be used, and they're going to be using them in all levels of the minor leagues this year. There's also going to be a ban on the defensive shift. And I guess I saw the distinct possibility of that happening. I didn't think it was actually going to happen. I guess I was betting my money against it. I didn't think they would actually ban where you could place defensive players. And the way I understand the rule is going to be, because they're implementing this too in the minors, is both feet have to be on the dirt and both feet have to be on your side of second base. So if you're the second, the shortstop or the third baseman, you have to be to the left of second. Both feet have to be on the dirt. So you can't be playing rover in the outfield either. So we could get into a whole philosophical discussion about this. And I know defensive shifts have affected the game. They do work statistically. They do prevent dead pull hitters from getting more base hits and getting on base more often. They do produce more outs than the regular defensive strategy. That said, to me, that's part of the game. Part of the game is figuring these things out and exploiting them. Part of the game is using your strengths in either your intelligence, your scouting reports, the athleticism of your infielders, the instinct of your infielders, how the pitchers will pitch to a particular batter in that situation to try to get them to pull the ball even more, to not throw outside fastballs where they're going to go the other way. All these things come into play for the strategy. And I think it goes against the whole point of trying to make these games shorter. Like, they've added the DH to the National League. They're going to ban defensive shifts. These things statistically will only lengthen games. While at the same time, they're trying to implement pitch clocks. You can only be out of the batter's box for a certain amount of time. You can only request time, certain amount of time during the game. All these weird things they're trying to implement to cut down the time of the game. Yet they employ these other strategies to increase offense, but that will also extend the length of a game. I don't get it.
Is more at bats. Offense creates more at bats, more opportunities for lengthy at bats. Here's a list of what they're changing in the minors this year to figure out what they like. Slightly larger bases with a less slippery surface, all AAA. A requirement on the 4 infielders to have their cleats within the outer boundary of the infield dirt, like you mentioned, when the pitch is delivered. That's being implemented in AA this year. A requirement that pitchers must step off the rubber to attempt a pickoff. That's a new one to me. All high A. I mean, like, you can't just pop up. You can't just, like, as a righty, you can't just spin around like that. That's taken away I don't like that. A limit of 2 pickoff attempts per plate appearance, all low A. And I know they did that one last year too, and apparently it seemed to not be that big of a deal. And then a 15-second pitch clock in low A and an automatic ball strike system in low A Southeast. So they scattered them throughout the minors to see how each one individually impacts the game, to see what they kind of do. And I think that they'll find, like you said, if they're trying to breed more offense, they might be lengthening things instead. So it's probably some of this stuff I think will go out the window, but some of it will probably hang around. And the shifting one is something that I can see hanging around because these players and these teams are just tired of having this happen. And well, tough. Every sport is strategy. Every sport is designed to have measures and countermeasures and then countermeasures and to play off the weaknesses and strengths of your opponent and your own team. And by taking away the ability to shift however you want, that takes away your ability to counter strike and have countermeasures against the other team. And it's just frustrating as a fan to know that the league itself is handicapping the teams. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm with you. You're big league ball players. If you don't want to hit it in the shift, adjust. I get how hard it is to hit a 95, 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I do. I absolutely do. I can't do it. But you can. So at least put that in your repertoire if you can. And that's the one that gets me the most out of any of them. I do not like screwing with shifting. I'm fine with
Yeah,
larger bases and all that crap, but shifting
those
sucks.
are a lot larger. I saw a picture of them. Holy crap.
Yeah.
They look
That's
comical.
the other thing though. I'd be totally good if they implemented first base like softball. Put the extended base.
Uh-huh.
Totally good with that at first base. And then just leave the other bases alone. There's no reason to change anything else. I'd rather have that.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite funny. I'm with you there. I do think people falling back on the, hey, just adapt to the shift and learn to hit the other way. It's like they're professional ball players. They've been taught how to do that their entire careers. It's extremely difficult because pitching has gotten so much more specialized over the last 10 to 15 years. Velocity's way up, movement is up on that high velocity. You can't just simply go the other way. That's not how it works. I get that too, just like you do. But at the same time, that's still, I'm gonna, tough titties. Like,
Yeah.
if you pull the ball 80% of the time, then the team's going to put that shift on you and you need to figure it out. You need to elevate the ball more, which is what they're trying to do most of the time anyway, or lay it down. Like Brandon Belt did that a few times. Yes, I know he got injured. I get it. But, there are ways to combat it. And I just don't like this whole, like, well, we're done with the shift. So it is what it is. Baseball is definitely one of those sports that has not changed a whole lot over 100 years. But this is a lot of change in a short amount of time for a sport.
Yeah.
A sport which, by the way, doesn't even have the same dimensions of the playing field in all 30 parks, which is, that in itself is unique to the sport, right? Like, you don't go to a basketball court or another football field where, hey, look, the end zone is 3 yards longer in this one corner. Like, that's not how it works. It's the same. In baseball, they're like, yeah, we're going to make left field really, really tall, but really short. We're going to make center field have a hill and a flagpole in it. We're going to, like, all those
Just
weird
gonna
things that
throw
baseball's done over the
random
years.
crap at you. Suddenly the fans will start to get throwing projectile. No, yeah, I mean that it is true though. Hockey is the only one that came close to it, just because some of the rinks were smaller because of some of the buildings. But there is no
Right.
other sport like that. I do love that fact because it means there's a new set of rules for literally every park.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like putting constraints on it. That's why I felt like baseball is one of the few sports with so few constraints on it. It doesn't even have a freaking clock on it, for God's
I was gonna
sakes.
go there. Yeah,
You just go as long as you need to go, right? You varying foul territories, varying home run heights and distances, varying all sorts of things. Weather, of course, affects football too. But the point is, I thought it was great that players could play wherever they wanted, except for the pitcher and the catcher, essentially. Everyone else could go wherever they wanted on the field, hypothetically. And now they can't. And it's just a weird artificial restriction on the game that I don't appreciate, but just like everything else, and for me, the DH, just gonna have to learn to live with it. It's not
really
like
good point.
when I don't see the shift, I'm gonna cry. I just like playing to the strengths of a team. And sometimes that can be a strength. And the Giants use the shift tremendously and tremendously well. So I think things like this will actually end up slightly hurting the Giants. But, in that case too, now Brandon Bell can say, okay, well, now I'm just going to yank it. I'm not going to even try to put down a bunt because the third baseman's going to be where he's supposed to be.
And then that's going to hurt guys like Crawford when he's good, he's going the other way and he's hitting against the shift. All these teams, they've been gearing towards one thing over the last 15, 20 years, and now you're going to shift them back. I mean, let the baseball cycle through the way it does. Let stuff happen. That's how the history of the game is. Something changes the game, and then the players respond, and they change it again, and then the players respond, and then they change it again. And they should just let it run its natural course. But all the other things, I don't mind. I don't mind some of these. The automatic ball strike zone's another one apparently there'll be challenges on those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, Bob talking about cricket changes the dimensions of the field from game to game. So, yeah, I do not understand cricket, so that is news to me.
So, I mean,
but yeah, wouldn't that be something? You could change the distance of the home run. Oh, Fernando Tatis is up. Let's move the fences back. That'd be kind of funny.
How'd you hurt your wrist? That fell off my when did you hear this? He hurt himself falling off a motorcycle, and then somebody asked him about the crash, and he goes, "Which one?" Like, kid, like, keep your mouth shut, man.
He wasn't even like Jeff Kent, where he was like, "I was washing my truck." Wink, wink. Like, he didn't even make that up.
Like, which time I fell? What do you mean? I mean, he's a kid. That's exactly what it is. I get it. He's being reckless, doing his stuff, but don't advertise that you dropped your bike more than once.
More than once, exactly. Which time are you talking about? Yeah, no, it's we didn't even mention that. He's out 3 months. He's got to have surgery, so that's really going to hurt the Padres there. Obviously help the rest of the West, but as a baseball fan, I like watching him play, and I think it's a shame. Like, I don't want that to happen. Even if it helps the Giants. That's, you want to see the Padres at their full strength. So
I don't think Tatis is going to get it for a few more years. So I don't think the Giants really have to worry about him killing them. You know what I mean? Like, there's the thing that clicks, and I don't think it's clicked yet. I think he's still too young.
Some of the financial changes and draft changes with the CBA, minimum salaries will begin at $700,000 this year. That's 23% higher than last year, and they're going to go up by a little bit every year to $780,000 in the final year of the CBA, which, by the way, is only 2026. I think we have to keep that in perspective too. It's like a 5-year CBA, so it's kind of like, we could be back here in 5 years, and that would, or 4 years, whatever it is, that would really suck. They're also going to have a 6-team draft lottery. So this is, of course, is being implemented to help curtail the tanking that is happening in quite a few teams, Pittsburgh and others that are just.
I mean, it's not even that they're tanking.
So I think it's going to help a little bit. I think you're right. It's not like they're telling their players, strike out. No, of course not. It's just they're not making the moves to help their team. And so the players are trying on the field. The manager's trying on the field. Yeah, the front office is not.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, would it suck to be an A's fan, Eric? I'm sorry. God. I mean, they're having another fire sale. And to their credit, to the A's credit, they are not like the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Marlins or whatever, in which they have no hopes in contending. The A's do contend. They somehow every year are in at least the conversation of the playoffs, if not making the playoffs every other or every third year. They're a good team every year because they do get these prospects from these massive trades. And some of these prospects pan out and, are good with them for 2 or 3 years before they get traded to the Yankees or wherever they go. So they're very good in getting those prospects and them performing on the field. But the fact of the matter is you still don't know what you got in prospects until they're literally playing. They could fizzle out like many do, but you have known quantities in these players that you're now trading away. And it just sucks because I think about it, the Giants, right? They held on to all their stars, some of them despite it being too long, right? That's what we've enjoyed as being Giants fans. We get to see the longevity of some of these careers and some of these great all-time Giants, even if it was the backside of the career, maybe they stayed with the team a little too long, but all the way back, in the 80s and 90s, but especially with the ownership group from the 2000s till today, you know, where we get to see the Bumgarners and Posies and Crawfords and Belts and Canes and Timmies and all that. If all those players played for the A's, they would have had 2 or 3 years with the Giants,
Yep.
you know, or the A's in that case, and they would have
I'd
been
be so
jettisoned.
pissed. The A's owner is one of the 10 richest owners in baseball. So he's not cash strapped. So there's literally no reason for him other than spite about a ballpark to be doing this to his ball club. And I think
Yeah.
that's what the root of it is. And if I were an A's fan, I get it. You root for clothing, you don't root for players, but I mean, when they keep shipping out the good players, there's got to be a moment where you ask yourself, what am I doing? If my team's never going to win at all, if they really don't ever have a chance, then what's the point? Because they're built to succeed, but ultimately fail in the end instead of succeeding all the way through. Because you need those kind of veterans that have been around for a few years, and they ship them off all the time. That's all they do. The Olsen trade just signified what was going to happen this
Ugh.
year again. And it's so sickening. And being in a Bay Area podcast and knowing the Bay Area people a lot, I see it on my timeline and social media. People I've talked to who are A's fans, they're just disgusted with how ownership is being treated. Dallas Braden recorded a rant, like he's sitting in his car, which is funny, which is what I'm doing right now. But he recorded a rant just screaming at the phone, going, dropping F-bombs like, oh, this sucks. I can't believe that this, has happened. And because he was an A's fan, he's from Stockton, I think. And he's an A's fan for life as well as being an A's pitcher. So I think he represents how A's fans feel. And I'm thrilled we don't have to deal with that crap. We do
No.
not ever have to deal with that crap whatsoever with the Giants. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you
Speaking
can
of the
understand.
Giants, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Giants owner is like the third richest in baseball. If anybody didn't know that, so we'd have a reason to scream.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you see why Bob Melvin finally got out of Dodge because
Yeah.
he did a great job managing the team, no question about it. But now he gets to go to San Diego and manage with a better talent pool. So
I mean, how long can you be a development manager? I mean, it's got to get tiring after years and years of knowing, okay, great, I'm going to develop this guy, but he's going to get traded out from under me next year, and I'm going to have to form new relationships and make new, better players.
Yep. They got to keep this revolving door going. So
Yep, that's what it is. Yeah, that's why I'm glad Farhan got out of there. He's too good for an organization like the A's.
All right, so there's going to be provision that prevents teams from optioning eligible players more than 5 times within a season. There's also 2 measures that are aimed at limiting service time manipulation. We talked about that with Chris Bryant in his rookie year with the Cubs, but you'll get a full year of service time awarded to players who finish in the top 2 in their respective rookie of the year voting. Yeah, that only applies to 4 players. You know what I mean? Like that's not overwhelming. Like, I don't know. It's only affects 2 teams in each league, 4 teams total. And draft picks awarded to teams that promote players on opening day who finish among the top vote getters for major awards. That's the way it was written. I don't know exactly what the metrics of that are and how they decide that, but maybe those are some of the things that have to be finalized before the CBA is ratified in, what is it, June or July or something like that. There's a lot of tweaks to the details that have to happen. It's basically a handshake agreement right now in a way, because a lot of these details have to be ironed out. So there's also going to be, I hate this, Eric. I hate this. Additional advertising through patches on jerseys and decals on helmets. Crap. Like you already see it in the NBA with the main sponsor patch on the jersey. You don't see it in football, but I swear to God, Eric, I know they're never going to approach the levels of soccer or, where the jersey name is the sponsor name, but at the same time, I love baseball for so many reasons. And one of the reasons I love it is for the classic look. I love the classic looks of the jerseys, how clean they are, how simple they are, how monochromatic they are. I love it.
Yeah.
And now I already hated the freaking Nike swoosh being on the chest because it broke it up. It was fine on the sleeve. Put all your patches and crap on the sleeve or on the sides. We're used to that. The front, I was like, okay, now there's a Nike swoosh there. Now they're talking about patches on the jersey and the freaking helmet. God damn it. Like,
Yeah, it's gonna look like Japanese baseball with that,
Japanese baseball. Yeah, exactly. Korean baseball, right? Where you get all the patches and the sponsors everywhere. And I just,
Yeah, right there.
yeah, it just takes me out of the game. I mean, again, we're all going to learn to live with it. We're all going to adapt to it. It's going to be a shock to the system at first, but I'm not happy with it at all. Especially because this is why do they get more money? Yeah, of course, tons more
Yeah,
money. Is that going to lower our ticket prices or TV package prices? No. So what benefit is it to the consumer? There's zero benefit. All the benefit is to the owners and the players. 100% of it. And that's what ticks me off because it ruins the experience, or at least it tampers with the experience of the fan. Because that's who it's marketed at. It's marketed at the fan. That's the whole point of advertising. It's not for the
yeah.
players, it's for the fans who are watching the game.
I mean, I'm
I
not
don't know.
going to be moved to support a product just because it's on the Giants jersey or helmet. Like that doesn't
No.
do anything for me. I know
Yeah,
that
I'm
it's
just
all about business. It's not like, oh, hey, Buster Posey uses blue emu. Maybe I'll try it. No, it's it's Salesforce is across the helmet on the side of the Giants. That's what I see happening. Some crap like that.
yeah, and I thought that was kind of a holy tenet that wasn't going to be broken because our whole lives it was never broken. And I just thought the sanctity of baseball prevented that part of it being spoiled by commercialism and business and greed and all of this stuff. And maybe your average baseball fan doesn't care. Maybe I'm the one that's so far on the end and get off my lawn stance on this. I'm a visual guy. I love the sights and sounds of baseball, and this is just gonna really it's gonna mess
It's
with
gonna
my
be
mind.
ugly. It's just gonna be
Yeah.
ugly. It sucks. I mean,
Again,
bad
I'm not
uniform
gonna
matchups
stop
suck.
watching baseball because of this. Like a lot of people, they all caps on social media. I'm done with baseball because of this. And you're like, well, but why are you putting on social media, dude? You want
Right.
attention. I get it. But I don't know. Just it is what it is. I don't
Yeah,
like it.
it is. It's just the evolution of sport in our lifetime.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, how many more patches are you gonna put on in 5 years? How many more, like they always say, oh, it's a slippery slope, right? It's like, well, okay, yeah, but once you put on one patch, yeah, then you're going 3 patches and then you're soccer, and, like, that's gonna suck.
Well, the umpires had that FTX patch on their
Yeah,
jerseys for the second half of the season last year. So as long as it's understated like that, because that never really stood out to me. At least if they keep it understated, it should be good. But
it's funny, when I first saw it, I thought it was like, not a union thing, I thought it was like a technology thing, or, like, I was like, "Oh, it has something to do with umpiring," and I had no idea till, like, it was just one day I was watching, and it was at a commercial, and then they had a commercial for FTX, and I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, they were
yeah,
advertising this whole time, and I didn't even know that?" Like, I had no clue. No
that
clue
was the
about that.
moon. That was the moon man behind the plate in the playoffs last year.
Right,
Was the
right.
FTX advertising? I don't even know what they do. It's some crypto thing or
It's
something. I'm sure.
crypto, yeah, some crypto, I don't know, yeah, don't really understand all of
Yeah,
it, but anyway,
yeah.
so it's good about manipulating service time. I think, some of these younger, good players won't be screwed in that regard. When they should be in the show, they should be in the show, especially helping a
Yep.
team, right? Like,
Yeah,
help the
the
team,
key is to
man.
win. Get the best
Yeah,
players to win. I
get the
mean,
best.
it's just
But, they're sitting there going, "Wow, if we bring up him up now, then we lose a year of eligibility with him, and he's a year closer to free agency, so we can't pay him, you know, that kind of
but you might
money."
win
So
2 to 3 games, which gives you home field advantage in the playoffs, which helps you get to the World Series and win it this year, and makes you even more money in the future as an
yeah.
organization. Like, I mean, they don't see that. They don't. They're too worried about salaries. But I mean, when you're handing out 7 years for $182 million, you're not as worried about salaries as you claim to be.
Very much so. All right, so an international draft could be implemented as early as 2024. The union has until July 25th to decide on an international draft, which would trigger the removal of draft pick compensation for high-priced free agents. So that'll be interesting how that affects that. I'm sure that's going to get quite complex. But under
I
the league's
like that
proposal,
though.
oh, I do. I think
Yeah,
overall, I
get
think
rid of
it's
the
a good
comp
move.
picks. Comp picks
Yeah.
make no sense to me.
Under the league's proposal, the draft would be a 20-round hard slot system for players at least 16 years old outside of the United States, Puerto Rico, and Canada. So I think that's a good idea, because you do get this problem again with international players who, come from Cuba or Japan or wherever. They're supremely talented, and they just go to the highest bidder or whatever city they like
Yeah.
the most. And it's, again, the haves and the have-nots. Now, Chicago got Suzuki, and who knows why he went there. I'm sure we'll find that out later. But it would be better to be more equitable about this when these major stars arise, or even, good prospects. They have a draft system to get these people, not just who's the highest. You got to be drafted out of high school. You got to be drafted out of college. You got to be drafted out of all these other places. But internationally, it's like, nope, just, whoever you want to sign
It
with.
also lessens the who you know type aspect of it. I know
Yeah.
David Ortiz was a big proponent against this, but that's because David Ortiz is from the Dominican Republic, where there are schools that have built themselves as pipelines to the major leagues.
Yeah.
And now they have to readjust what they're doing and build themselves as a pipeline to the draft instead of as a pipeline. So there's a possibility that like those schools themselves are going to start losing out on some money because these players are not signing for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million like they would be if they were just coming in off the street. So I
That's
got to
true.
figure that's
Yeah.
the driving force behind Ortiz speaking out against it. Is he's worried about his countrymen losing money, but I think for the equitable aspect of baseball, it's a great idea. Put everybody on even footing. Like literally, Pirates as an example, they never sign the Suzuki, the
Mhm.
Ichiro, the Chan-Ho Park, just any of them. They never sign those guys. But under this system, they'll be able to dip into the international pool because why not? Baseball's a global sport. You might as well draw on it as much as possible and stop being about the haves and the have-nots in that aspect. Give everybody a fair shake. I like that.
Shohei Ohtani almost became a Giant. No, I'm just kidding. He's one of those guys, man. You're like, what if? What if?
Yeah,
Maybe they
right.
109 games. I don't know.
I mean, he could put balls into the cove like every series. I could see him doing something like that.
Yeah, I guess he showed up at spring training looking a little bigger already, and he says, "Yeah, I basically he weight trained and says he feels a lot stronger." So we'll
Wow.
see if that means anything. But all right, we're almost done here today. But the Giants have set May 7th, and I believe that is still staying there as the official date. They will honor Buster Posey. Obviously, they won't probably retire his number quite yet. I think, in fact, it was Gabe Kapler who tweeted out. I don't have it in front of me, but something to the effect of like, hey, TB12 did it, BP28? Question mark? Like, huh? It's like, maybe you'll come out of retirement. Obviously, everyone knows he
Yeah,
won't.
that's not happening.
He's different than Tom Brady. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's not. I'm Tom. I honestly thought Tom was going to go to the Niners. I thought that was his ploy, and I think he was
I
trying
thought
to
he
get
would come out
traded.
of retirement to do that. Yeah, well, he has to
Yeah,
be traded, but
right. And I
yeah.
think that was his ploy in retiring at first, and then he's like, "Oh, well, I got to announce right before free agency that I'm coming back, so we can sign some people." So
Yeah.
no, Buster's not doing that. Buster will, if Buster watches more games than just the one he attends, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
That guy is going to retire to his family, and he's totally going to chill. He's going to be a quiet dude.
It's funny too because they had Rob Nen on KNBR the other day to talk about pitching and all this other stuff. And they said, "Hey, how much did you follow the Giants last year?" And he's all, I occasionally watch a baseball game. I check the box scores the next day. So, but I don't really
Right.
watch baseball. And it's so funny, like, not that he has to be a fan of the Giants, of course not. But as Giants fans, we not only watch Giants games, but we're always watching highlights and tuning into other games, watching playoffs or whatever. And I always find it fascinating how often I'll hear of ex-ball players in any sport that don't keep in touch with the game as much as you'd think, let alone watch
Yeah.
games, right? And it probably just has something to do with they lived, ate, breathed, drank, bathed in that sport for 30 years of their life. So they're moving on. They're doing other
Yeah.
things in life,
They need a break.
So I think that's part of it. But it's always interesting to me when they're like, "Yeah, I watched a couple games last year." It's like, that's
Yeah.
it? Okay.
I mean, it's really how the majority of ball players are built. Not everybody goes into the booth or goes into being a guy behind a desk right after.
Yeah.
Those are actually the rare guys. It's most guys just kind of go quietly into the night and just go hang out with their family and like, all right, I played baseball for 30 years. Let's go do something else.
Yeah, I'm gonna go, rope horses or cut down trees or do whatever I want to do. So that's
Right.
cool. And then of course, Will Clark, they still have his date to retire, his number 22, which they tried to do before, but the pandemic impacted that, and that's set to retire in July. In fact, he just had his 58th birthday last week. So
Yeah.
happy belated
Yeah.
birthday to my favorite player of all time, Will Clark. So
So some notes about the schedule there. The Will Clark
yeah,
Day is July 30th against the Cubs. It's a Saturday. The Buster Posey Day is also a Saturday. It's Saturday, May 7th against the Cardinals, which is nice because, two of his three titles, they had to go through the Cardinals.
yep,
And then because of the cancellation of the first week of games, the way they're being made up for the Giants is they are playing one game in Milwaukee at the end of April when they come back on a road trip. And then they're having a doubleheader in September in Milwaukee, also when they're in the middle of a road trip because they're going to Chicago. And so they'll stop in Milwaukee the day before, play a doubleheader to finish that series out. For that series they
yep.
missed. And then the Padres series that they missed to open the season will be tacked on at the end of the season. And the Giants, for the first time in forever, will end the season on the road and start the season at home. And this is the first time the Giants will start the season at home since 2009, which is just absolutely amazing. And the starting pitcher that day for the Giants was Tim Lincecum.
Ah,
And the winning pitcher that day was Joe Martinez, 2 days before he took a line drive off of his head, off of Mike Cameron's bat. And
wow.
that was when he got his first big league win. And then 2 days later, he got smacked in the head. Travis Ishikawa played for the Giants that day. He started at first base. Fred Lewis was the left fielder. Edgar Renteria at short. Emmanuel Burris was the second baseman. That's how long it's been since the Giants have started at home, which they will do now this year because of this schedule change.
Yeah, that was even right before Buster Posey got called up because he got called up at the end of that 2009. So I guess Benji Molina was probably behind the dish.
Yes, he was. And they
Wow.
faced off. Yep. Jeff Suppan was the starting pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers that day. And Timmy did not have a good day. He gave up like 4 runs in 3 innings and 3 runs in 3 innings and got yanked. And then Joe Martinez came in and got the win after 2 rocky innings. But I mean, Jeremy Affeldt pitched that day, but there was Bob Howry, Brandon Metters, like all sorts of names we haven't heard in forever.
My
And
Lord. Yeah.
that's what is that? 09. So that's 13 years since the Giants started a season at home, which they'll be doing this year.
Yeah. And I know they do it based off, a lot of it is based off requests. A lot of teams will request to start the year at home or on the road. And the Giants have always asked to start the year on the road. That's just the way they operate. They like to close out the year at home. I don't know the particular reasons why, but that's just what the franchise has always requested, and they're usually honored. So obviously this year they can't help it. It's the pandemic, or not the pandemic, it's the CBA. It just pushed the season off. So they have to do what they have to do, but it'll be interesting. So I'm certainly going to try and attend those couple of those games of note, including the Buster Posey and Will Clark games. Hopefully I can make that in attendance. But spring training, I'd love to make. The Giants have their first game starting tomorrow. Actually, it's going to be broadcast on the radio, of course, and on television. So that's fantastic. And I think the first spring training games across the league are today, if I'm not mistaken. I was looking at the schedule. So I myself have my daughter's high school softball game and other things to attend tonight, but I'm certainly going to look forward to seeing highlights of actual baseball.
It's still, though, your daughter's softball game is far more interesting than the first spring training game of the year.
I know. It's spring training.
Those girls are in midseason form. These guys are not.
Yeah, it's mostly, it's kind of like, spring training starts, especially after the CBA fiasco. It's more like, oh, this is so great to see baseball again. Watch a couple innings, see the highlights, and then you're like right back into it, and then you're like, then days aren't that special after that. You're like, oh yeah, they're trying out these guys from single A, got invited to camp and whatever. So good stuff, man. All right, I think that's going to do it for episode 246 of the Torture Cast. Now that we do have an agreement, the players are back. The season is going to start. They're going to play all 162. We should be coming back to you regularly now, certainly every week or two for spring training, and then definitely every week when the regular season starts, April 8th at home for the Giants. You can follow us collectively on Twitter at TortureCast, like us on Facebook. You can follow us individually at ChadK21 for myself, at 2 Out Hits with the number 2 for Eric. Willie, had a last-second work obligation he had to fill in for, so he could not attend today. You can follow him at Willie Dills, and also check out everything we will post on torchcast.com. And of course, you can find this audio podcast wherever you download your podcasts. Eric, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, just thrilled that baseball's back. We finally, there was that scare. I really thought it was going to take till May, but nope, I'm just full of joy and good cheer that baseball is going to be a part of our lives starting tomorrow.
Hell yes. I'm damn excited, man. It's going to be good to see the boys back in black and orange. It's going to be weird to see a guy like Jock Peterson, who, we've seen as an enemy for so many years, coming in maybe with his pearl necklace. We'll see. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see this year start out. So anyway, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Until then, aboom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.